close your eyes wherever you are. Just talk, speak, pray with me. Le kuka pakata lama shekaya. Le gregesiska paranufi karadis. Le katora pakatite lika parahandi. Le kuskidandi hila barahoski sabaha. Thank you, Jesus. I want to welcome once again to A Voice in Ramah in PMI TV. My name remains Reverend Samuel Ogan, your host. I trust the first edition was a blessing to you, and we'll be building on what we started. We began a series on the topic, Understanding Life. And we mentioned that the reason why a lot of people live life the way they live is because they lack understanding of what life truly means. Life is valuable and it's a gift from God, and it is meant to be lived in fullness. But when you don't understand what life is all about, you are bound to abuse it. This could be the reason why a lot of people live life anyhow. They live life in addiction, in drug addiction, live life, can appear anyhow, get themselves involved in things that have no direct value to direct contribution to what they're doing in life. So that's why we began this series. So when you understand what life is, if you enter into campus and see what young people are doing with life, you feel you weep for them. And then you also look at what older people are doing with life, you also weep for them. And that's because a lot of people do not understand what life is all about. Understanding life makes you live life in the fullness. And we did establish in the last episode that God is the originator of life. And because He's the originator of life, He can give us, the meaning of life. He will make us, He can make us understand what life is all about. Somebody said once, he said, only the manufacturer knows what the intent of that product is. So if you want to discover purpose, you need to go to the source of that product. You need to ask the originator of that product. And that's why we're going back to the source of life, and we want to find out from God what life is all about. And we began by telling you now that the Greek language in the New Testament used three major words to explain what life is all about. And we mentioned that the first is the bios, and bios means the natural life. It means the physical life. And a lot of people are just living life because they feel that life is all about what you put in your mouth, what you enjoy, and then you die. That's why some people use the word, after all, it is what you put in your stomach you go with. And then others say, man die go. You don't die and you just go like that, because life is beyond the physical life. And then there is a second word used to explain what life means, and that's the suke. And the suke life has to do with the mental life. It means the intellectual life. It means the solical life. And they said that this life is what a lot of people are living in, especially those in the academia, those in the research environment, industry, and those in various lives endeavor. And of course, whereas every one of us have the bios life, we must go beyond the bios life. We must also talk about or appreciate the place of the suke life, the solical life, where everybody is expected to develop their mental or their mental capacity, their mental efficiency, their creative abilities, and that's what we find in the world of science. And this was why someone like Charles Darwin many decades ago defined life to be an evolution from a tiny organism into what I want to assume that it's an insult to human existence, and where he said that we evolved from a tiny organism and then evolved into an ape. And then from ape, you now became a human being. It's an insult, because, and this of course is as a result of the fact that people became confused and can't really explain what life is all about. Permit me at this point to look at the book of Matthew chapter 16, so we can understand what the solical life is all about. Matthew chapter 16 and verse 25. Matthew 16 and verse 25. The Bible told us in verse 25, for whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. Now this life mentioned in this verse actually referred to the solical life. Everyone becomes so conscious of themselves, and this self-consciousness is the solical life. The self-consciousness that makes you assume that somebody is looking down on you. somebody is despising you, you want to become this, you want to be notable in the society, you want to have control over everything. For instance, if you take a look into River State, there are some people who want to hold power as if this is where their life rests, and without that, nothing else. The reason is because they want to maintain and sustain relevance, and because they want to sustain relevance, they can do everything possible to, even if it would take them to kill anybody that stands on their way, they will do that. And Jesus is speaking to us, and he's saying that those who live in the solical life can do everything. They can go all out to subdue, to oppress, to manipulate, to lie, to deceive, just to sustain this solical life that is always seeking for relevance, seeking for dominance, seeking for influence, beyond measure, beyond imagination, out of proportion. It is the solical life that creates, to amass and that drives for greediness. It is the solical life that drives for greediness, that drives for all manner of evil that we can talk about today. You remember in Romans chapter 1, Paul speaking, mentioned one of those attributes of the end time, one of the things that are traceable in the fallen man, in the corrupt, deprived man. And he said that this man invents evil. It is the solical life that invents evil. It is the solical life that invents. Why? Because it wants to advance itself. It wants to impose itself. Now, if you read your Bible in Genesis chapter 3, the Bible told us after Adam and Eve ate of the fruit that God told them not to eat of, they became self-aware. They became conscious of themselves. Then they recognized, the Bible told us, let's look at it together. Let's look at it together. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, look at it, you see, it was pleasant to the eyes. Apostle John, speaking in First John, he said, the things that are of this world includes the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, and the lust of the flesh. Now, these three components, are about the solical life, because the solical life is always interested in things like this. So he said the lust of the eyes, whatever he sees, whatever it admires, it goes for. All right. Now the next one is the lust, the pride of life, which is ego. He wants to be relevant. He wants to be recognized. He wants to be at the hem or at the top of affairs. So that's what the Bible told us in Genesis chapter 3, that as soon as she saw the fruit, it was so pleasant to the eyes, and she began to admire it, and she wants it. So there is the relationship between the solical life and the bios life, or the biological life. The solical life and the biological life. I believe that as you are patient, and then as you keep following, you will never regret this teaching. It will open your eyes to know, and then you begin to live life to the fullest. Join us again as we meet in the next episode. God bless you. Pros upon.